So this brief video is going to be on point and non-point sources. And so what's nice is the names make sense. A point source is something you can point to. It typically comes from a single place. And again, you can point to it. So it's a big smokestack coming off of a coal plant or a manufacturing facility. It's an effluent pipe. That's the pipe of the water flowing out of like a sewage treatment plant or something else like that. So again, very easy to go in to get samples to see what the emissions are. These are much easier to identify and regulate. In fact, a lot of the regulations traditionally at a from the US EPA are for point sources because, again, these are easier to regulate, easier to see who is causing it. And the image there shows, again, a point source, very clear, you can point to it. A non-point source is something that comes from multiple places and is harder to identify. So for example, you might think the exhaust from a car, you can point to the exhaust pipe of a car. And that's true, but there's many cars in an urban area. And so which one of those is causing issues? If you've had to go do emissions testing for your car, this is one way they try to start regulating in a non-point source, because another key idea is, again, non-point sources are difficult to identify and regulate. And so this is kind of how they try to approach it. But again, it's very, very difficult because there's lots of cars all giving exhaust and it's all kind of spread all over. Runoff from a farm. So again, there can be multiple farms in an area, and maybe downstream we're finding a lot more fertilizers causing, again, that algae bloom and eutrophication in waterways downstream. Well, which farm or farms are causing more of the issue? Again, hard to tell. We know there's an issue downstream. Where upstream is causing that? Runoff from yards into sewers. So in a lot of urban and suburban areas, people love to apply fertilizers and pesticides for their lawn so it's nice and green and uniform. And that can run off into the sewers and then cause issues in the rivers where the sewers flow into. Are there certain homes that are using it more in excess than other homes? And so very hard to regulate and find. These are the main ones. Ignore that effluent pipe from a sewage plant because that is incorrect. That is a point source. But also the other one in there is a leaky septic tank in a rural area. And so in rural areas, actually, I'll go to the next slide. Big idea, difficult to identify and regulate. Again, effluent pipe from a sewage plant, ignore that. That is a point source. And so next slide here, non-point source. So here is this last one. Here's a septic tank. So in rural areas, people don't send their sewage to a sewage treatment plant. They typically have this tank in their backyard. Their sewage flows into this tank, and then the solids settle out, and then the liquid, which has some like dissolved poop basically in it, is one of the main things, flows into this septic field. As here it says leach field or drain field. And what happens is aerobic bacteria will eat that dissolved food, basically decompose it, and actually puts a lot of nutrients in your lawn. And this is the process of doing a septic treatment. What can happen is you look at that septic tank that can fill up with particles. And if that fills up with particles, what will happen is you actually have to have someone come in and clean out your septic tank. If you don't have that happen, it's going to now start dumping problematic stuff into your septic field, and it's now going to leak down into the groundwater. And so with that happening, you now contaminate the groundwater. So the image here of a whole bunch of different homes. So again, here I'm going to have the septic tank. If this fills up with particles, it's going to now get this gunk into the field, and now it's going to get down into the groundwater. This image here is showing you a whole bunch of homes. So which home or homes is causing the issue in a rural area? It would be hard to tell. And this image is all these different colors are different aquifers. So we now are knowing that there's contamination in this aquifer. Well, this is covering a huge area and a huge amount of homes. Are there a few homes or an area that is causing the issue, or is it everyone? Again, it's probably not everyone. A lot of people will maintain it properly. And so this is why, one of the reasons why non-point sources are so hard to regulate. So that's the big idea with point and non-point sources. I hope that was helpful in that overview.